In the shadowed autumn of 1863, the small, strategically perched town of Millfield, Kentucky, became the epicenter of a statistical anomaly that whispered of a horror far beyond the accepted tragedies of the Civil War. Over a harrowing 8-month period, the town's records documented 17 marriages to soldiers and 16 military funerals. This grim arithmetic was disturbing enough, but the true source of the community's unspoken dread was a macabre detail. An astonishing 15 of those deceased soldiers had, in their final days, all taken the same woman as their bride. Her name was Constance Grimsley. By the time the war concluded, the official ledger would coldly state she had buried 7 husbands, legally collected their military pensions, and, through it all, cultivated a public persona as the most pious and devoted war widow across 3 counties. The town physician, Dr. Patterson, consistently certified the cause of each death as complications from war wounds, often aided by a vague but accepted ailment he termed battlefield fever. This explanation sufficed for a community desperate to believe in the inherent goodness of those who offered comfort. However, the official narrative began to fracture decades later. During renovations to a local courthouse in 1923, a trove of forgotten correspondence between Union and Confederate medical officers was discovered hidden within a wall cavity. These letters revealed that both armies, despite being enemies, had quietly begun a joint investigation into the anomalously high mortality rate among convalescing soldiers stationed in or passing through Millfield. This unprecedented cooperation was terminated under sinister circumstances. The lead investigator, a principled and observant Union chaplain named Samuel Rutherford, was discovered dead in his quarters. The official report called it a sudden illness, but the newly found letters described the circumstances as highly suspicious, suggesting his inquiry had gotten too close to a dangerous truth. The story of Constance Grimsley is not merely one of a solitary murderess, but a chilling exposé of how the chaos of war creates perfect hunting grounds for predators. To understand how she operated with such impunity, one must first appreciate the unique conditions of Millfield. Situated a mere 15 miles from the Tennessee border, the town was a Union-held island in a sea of Confederate sympathy. Its value was not in its size, only 800 souls called it home, but in its location along a critical supply line. This strategic importance transformed the quiet farming community into a bustling, chaotic way station. The old Methodist church was converted into an overflowing field hospital, and private homes, including the boarding house run by the kindly Mrs. Hartwell, were commandeered to house the endless stream of wounded. It was into this maelstrom of suffering that Constance Grimsley arrived in the spring of 1862. She presented herself as a figure of tragic grace and competence, a 28-year-old woman with arresting auburn hair and a demeanor of profound Christian sympathy. Her backstory, as she recounted it, was designed to elicit trust and pity. The daughter of a physician lost to cholera, she had spent years nursing her ailing mother until she too passed, leaving Constance alone in the world with only her inherited medical knowledge and her faith. She carried a letter of introduction from a Presbyterian minister in Louisville, praising her devotion to our brave defenders. The town, overwhelmed by the carnage from battles like Shiloh, welcomed her with open arms. What the people of Millfield did not see was the contents of the false bottom in her carpet bag. Hidden away was a small, leather-bound journal, its pages filled not with prayers, but with meticulous, dispassionate notes written in a cramped hand. It contained what appeared to be medical recipes, but a closer examination would have revealed a far darker purpose: detailed observations on the effects of various plant extracts and minerals on human physiology, complete with precise notes on dosage, timing, and the symptoms they produced, with a particular focus on those that could mimic infection or fever. This journal was a logbook for perfecting the art of murder under the guise of medical treatment. Constance's modus operandi was methodical and ruthless. She began by establishing an impeccable reputation as an angel of mercy, whose gentle hands could soothe the suffering where the overworked Dr. Patterson could not. She then targeted specific soldiers, those with wounds serious enough to warrant extended care, but not immediately fatal, men who were isolated, with few or no family ties, making them less likely to be questioned, and those suffering from what we would now call post-traumatic stress, whose erratic behavior could be easily explained away. Her first victim in Millfield was Private Thomas Kellerman. After a whirlwind, 3-week courtship conducted largely at his sickbed, they married. He was dead within 4 days. Dr. Patterson, overwhelmed and sympathetic to Constance's grief, diagnosed acute gastric fever. He failed to notice the small puncture wounds on the soldier's arms or the vial of clear liquid Constance discreetly retrieved after his death. The pattern was set. A soldier would come under her care, a rapid courtship would ensue, a hasty wedding would be arranged, and death would follow within days or weeks. With each funeral, Constance's social capital grew. She used the pension money from her first husband to buy a small house on Elm Street, which she outfitted with medical supplies, effectively creating her own private killing ground under the banner of a charitable convalescent home. The sheer scale of her operations eventually attracted the attention of Chaplain Samuel Rutherford. A young, intellectually rigorous man, Rutherford grew suspicious when, during last rites, dying soldiers under Constance's care would whisper deliriously about bitter medicine and the woman with poison hands. He began his own discreet investigation, cross-referencing records and discovering similar patterns of deaths involving war widows in other Kentucky towns. His investigation led him to local apothecaries and an elderly herb woman, Granny Fletcher, who confirmed Constance had been inquiring about plants that could mimic battlefield fever. Rutherford's suspicions culminated with the death of Private Daniel Hawthorne, who, with his final breath, gasped, "She's killing us, Padre, for the money." Armed with a vial of poison he had discovered and had analyzed, Rutherford took his evidence to the local Union commander, Colonel Harrison. A search of Constance's house on the eve of her wedding to her final target, Lieutenant Marcus Sheffield, uncovered irrefutable proof, the journal detailing her experiments, hidden syringes, vials of arsenic and antimony, and, most damningly, correspondence with a network of similar murderous widows operating across multiple states. These letters revealed a sophisticated conspiracy where women shared tips on poisons, target selection, and forging pension documents. Confronted, Constance fled to the church where Sheffield awaited her. The search party arrived to find her administering a lethal, accelerated dose of poison to her fiancé. Her capture was not met with remorse, but with a chillingly pragmatic defense. She argued that she was merely offering mercy to men who would have lived broken lives, and that the pension system was a just reward for her services. She bragged that the network was vast and would continue long after her, hidden behind the public's unwavering sympathy for war widows. Constance Grimsley was tried by a military tribunal in Louisville in 1863. The evidence was overwhelming, and she was found guilty on 7 counts of murder and conspiracy. She was hanged on July 4, 1863, one of the few women executed for war crimes during the Civil War. Her final words offered no apology, only a cold critique that her mercy was preferable to the justice she received. The investigation she triggered uncovered a conspiracy of at least 16 women, though many evaded capture. The case exposed critical vulnerabilities in military medical oversight and pension administration, leading to significant reforms. Yet, the full extent of the network's crimes likely remains unknown, lost to the chaos of war. The story of Constance Grimsley endures as a profoundly unsettling lesson on the banality of evil, a reminder that monsters often wear the most compassionate of masks, and that true horror can flourish where trust is absolute and scrutiny is absent. The house on Elm Street still stands, a silent monument to the dark secrets that can fester in the heart of a community, and to the 7 soldiers who learned too late that their angel of mercy was, in fact, a devil in disguise.